Hi everyone, this is Jessica Alba. This is part 2 of Getting Honest with Diana Martinez. We did this little like modern 60s vibe. It's like a little bit of a heavier eye, but not too much. Nice glowing even skin, a little cheek, a baby contour. Yes, we even threw in a baby contour and a nice nude lip. This is great for every day. If you are on virtual meetings and you want to just like step up your game a little bit, we will show you how to get the look while we're getting honest. All right, let's get started. Our face is nice and prepped. I'm gonna start with the matte primer.
Okay.
And you can use your fingers or a beauty blender. It's great because it just sort of like where you get a little more oil production. If you just dab this there.
This is nice because it feels like a cream and it's hydrating, but it does matte. I feel like there's some other matte primers that feel like you're literally just putting glue on your face.
Yeah, I wanted to create a makeup line that really was makeup with skincare benefits so that it's not just like shellacking all kinds of nasty and harsh chemicals on your face, but actually your skin will get healthier over time when using these products. Now let's go in with the CCC cream. So if you are in front of those screens, your phones, television screens, computer screens and whatnot, you are getting some damage to your skin from all of that blue light. So it's nice to have just a little bit of protection. And then when you're out in the world, it does have the broad spectrum SPF 30. So I'm gonna use light. And we have 4 colors now. We are expanding our shade range. It's been in development. Our deeper tones and our more sort of red undertones, our in-between tones, because we didn't want to have that purple cast that can sometimes happen. But because it is a tinted sunscreen, you don't need the perfect match. There is some wiggle room because you can just buff away and it blends right into the skin.
It's pretty sheer.
Yeah, it's really sheer. So, 2020, what are you gonna take from 2020 that you're going to bring into 21?
I think 2020 for me was all about work-life balance. I'm the artistic director of Film Streams, which is an art house theater organization. And so we've been closed for most of 2020. And so what that meant is we were all working remotely, kind of doing a lot of virtual programming and like online events. But for me, like working from home didn't make me work less. I actually feel like for the first few months, like I was working more. And so I think for me, it was about like finding that balance. And for my fiance and I, it was about making sure that weekends felt special. So every weekend we would put on some music in the morning, like have coffee, like make sure that we were spending time together.
My husband is really good at boundaries as well. He's much happier. He's not as frustrated and sort of like frazzled and like I am, especially with the kids where I'm just like snapping at them. So I'm gonna go in with the Honestly Bright Eyes. Now this is an eye cream, but I learned this little trick, this little hack, especially when I quickly need to be on a Zoom. So I'm gonna use the deeper shade to just go into like the hollows of my cheek and almost do like a fake contour. But when you have just all one color like this and you're in a virtual space, it can kind of just like flatten you out. Because I do have a longer forehead, I'm gonna shade in there, down the bridge of my nose, in my eyelid here, under my chin, that jawline. And then I like to go in with like a buffing brush, or you can do a beauty blender. Now, cream blush. I'm gonna use Peony Pink, and you can even use the same brush that you just used to buff out the Honest Bright Eyes. It's nice and pigmented. It looks really pretty on all skin tones.
I'm so used to using powder blushes with my brushes that I'm like tapping it off as if there's like...
It takes a second to get used to, but it's nice because it gives you more of like a youthful kind of flush vibe. Now I'm gonna go with the Everything Cream Foundation. It's just so versatile, so you can actually use your finger. I like to use my finger. My color's Sand.
I am in beige.
Where I would normally put concealer, I go in. If you go a little too heavy on the cream blush, you can just put a little bit on a beauty blender and blend it out. So tell me about what you believe post the Black Lives Matters movement and race, and after the Me Too movement with gender equality being more of a priority for entertainment. why do you think Hollywood didn't play by the same rules as the rest of the world?
Yeah.
Not like corporate America was that much better, but there's an HR department that mattered, and there are some rules and some thinking behind it, where in Hollywood it just felt like that just didn't really apply.
I think to some extent it's that creative aspect. Like, I think when you are in a space where there are sensitive people, right, who are artistic, who are creative, we have this stereotype that with those talents comes a specific kind of personality. And so if someone yells at an intern, that's totally fine. They're creative, they're geniuses. Let's let some of this bad behavior slide. And I think more and more we're kind of pulling away from that. Creativity doesn't excuse bad behavior.
Right.
That being really good at your job doesn't excuse that.
Right. You need to be respectful of other people, and also you can be really good at your job. I can like remember really one photo shoot that I very, very much regret because the photographer lied to me and I trusted him. And he said he wasn't shooting something that he was. I mean, I've been changing in front of people since I was 12, right? So I'm not like a modest person in that sense. But my public persona, I'm like, Grandma and Grandpa are gonna see this. And it's really interesting because men, there's just not the same amount of pressure, I don't think, on men to show their goodies in that way or to be put in those situations.
You know, one of the things that's always so hard when I'm like teaching something like this, because I think people who have never experienced these weird situations say like, oh, well, I would do something differently, or like, oh, I would just leave the room. But like when your career's on the line, when you actually do feel like it's like life or death in some way, right? Like either stay in this room or never work again, you can see how it all just kind of like feeds into each other. And unfortunately, actresses, Latina actresses in particular, like have been having these feelings since Hollywood started. You know, it's 2020 and we still haven't moved away from the spicy Latina. I think it's so great that we're having like this discussion publicly, because I feel like there's a lot of ways that like Latinos talk to each other.
That's true.
That like we don't see.
It's so true.
In mainstream media.
Oh my gosh, it's so layered and complex. You have to consider the nuance. I'm gonna put on some gloss, some vitamin C.
I'm doing bronzite.
So I'm gonna go in with this like taupey brown to the crease.
So I love this eyeshadow palette because I've had a really hard time finding eye makeup that doesn't irritate my eyes. I have super sensitive eyes, and about 12 years ago I had LASIK, so that made them even more sensitive. And so I was playing around with this weekend, and I was like, okay, I can only like have it on for an hour because I don't know what's gonna happen to my eyeballs.
What happened? It was okay?
It was amazing. My eyelids didn't feel heavy. It didn't itch or like burn my eyes. Eyeliners, mascaras, like any eye product really irritates my eyes except for honest beauty stuff.
That's amazing. That makes me so happy. I have the same. I have very, very sensitive skin. And so the natural no makeup look, I just had to do it for most jobs. Like if I was doing like a red carpet or something, I could wear the makeup, but then I could deal with the 2 or 3 days that my eyes would be puffy, my skin would break out. But on a movie set or a TV, I didn't have that because the next day I had to go in and do it. So I was always that no makeup look because out of necessity. So yeah, that was really the impetus behind creating this line. So I just wet this little smudging brush and I'm gonna go in with this taupey brown color. It has a little bit of shimmer. Just go into my eye lap. And it's just like a little trick to define the eye. This eyeliner is really great. I was finding that I was getting really itchy using eyeliner, but I had committed to a look where I had like a full-on line, a wing in LA's Finest, this TV show that I did. And because I made that commitment, I had to keep that look. And so luckily we were developing this liquid liner, and with my makeup artist, we got to really get the nice pigment and also the staying power. But I never got the swollen lids. I haven't gotten any irritation. A trick is to dab in between your eyelashes, and it can just enhance your eyes and make your eyes look bigger, your lashes look fuller. So why did you want to become a professor in film? Why study storytelling?
I started really loving literature, and I thought that I was gonna get my PhD in literature until I discovered that you could get a degree in film. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that that was even a thing. Like, I love that more. I've always felt really drawn to storytelling. Like, I think people are learning more and more to take film seriously, but I do think that a lot of people still think of it as like, oh, that's just a movie. Like, there's nothing political about that. And for me, I was like, no, it is.
I think what's really interesting about what you're saying is if you look at the countries that are being run by dictators, they have a control over media. And so media at the end of the day very much dictates how you're going to think and feel about current events, but then also how you are going to understand and identify with stories and your connection to them. And so then you're like, oh, it is really powerful.
Because it's a thing that people consume without thinking about it. I mean, these are not even at all.
I hate when mine aren't even. It drives me crazy. But you can go in with a little Q-tip, and if you wet it with your tongue, and you just kind of dab out the bits that you don't want, dab away. So what did you say about entertainment? Why media?
Because it's the one thing that people consume uncritically. You put it on and you get sucked into it, and sometimes it's entertaining, and you don't always really think about like what is it saying like politically. So I had the idea for the podcast while I was getting my PhD. I didn't start it until 2017 because of the 2016 election. And I was just kind of like, I need to intervene somehow. The things that are being said about Latinos in particular, but all people of color.
Oh my gosh, it was so crazy.
And I thought doing it through its connection to Hollywood would be really interesting because I really see Hollywood as this little microcosm.
It was really interesting when you talked about in your podcast just how even the roles and the opportunities for Latinos, depending on where the government was at and whether they needed a workforce of immigrants and the types of stories and the types of people they wanted to depict, versus when Hollywood was like, no, we're gonna spin this narrative of you're taking our jobs and you're doing this and demonizing these people that you relied on to build everything. And then it was like, wait, no, you're back in. It was like such a back and forth.
Which goes to show you that Hollywood actually knows exactly what it's doing.
Yes, it does.
Right, this like question of like representation and not enough representation. It's quite purposeful.
Yeah,
it's to an end, and it's usually a political end.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I hope people get from the podcast is that there are so many different ways that you could spin this narrative, right? Like, oh, there's not enough research, or like, executives just don't know how many Latinos actually go to the movies. No, they know all these things.
Yep. I think the thing that we all realized is if a community of people get behind each other and start to support and lift each other up, how powerful that will be. Because I would say that a lot of the older generations, they just didn't question the narrative. They were just in survival mode.
Yeah.
This is the killer item. I worked my butt off making sure that I got the primer on this same component as the mascara, and I hadn't seen that yet. And I tracked down this packaging manufacturer in Italy at a beauty expo and begged him to make this for us, and he'd never done it before. And that is how we were able to make our mascara that has the primer on one side and the mascara on the other. You're supposed to wait 30 seconds between the primer and the mascara. I'm gonna pick out my lip. So I'm gonna go for a more nude vibe. I'm gonna use a combination of BFF and Off Duty. I'm gonna go in first with the lighter one and bring it all the way out to the outside of my lip line. I like a light nude lip, but sometimes if I use too light of a color, I look like a corpse. I like to lay that down as like the first layer. And what's nice is we formulated this in-house. It's a longwear lip, and our chemist, Mallory, formulated this and swapped out a lot of the normal kind of more harsh chemicals that people use with longwear lip. I really thought, I was like, there's no way you're gonna get me to wear a longwear lip. And she got me to.
I feel like I look very like, I don't know, 60s, 70s?
Because you do have like the nude lip, you have like a little bit more of the eye. It's like a modern 60s vibe. I'm gonna do my mascara. And I like to blink through the wand just to coat the lashes. Thank you so much. This is our look. This was so fun. It was so great talking to you. I think we need to do a podcast together because it would be really fun.
You would be great at podcasting.
Let us know everything you're working on. What do people need to listen to? How do we find you?
You can find me at hollywoodincolor.org. You can listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram at hwoodincolor, and you can follow me at Diana Emmeline, Emmeline. It's my middle name. And you can check out filmstreams.org, which is a great art house organization in Omaha, Nebraska. We have a virtual platform where you can watch movies. We also have a podcast you can listen to called Backrow Center, also available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
All right, everyone, I hope you liked this episode of Getting Honest with Diana Martinez. I could talk to you for hours. You know what's weird is like when you meet someone and you're like, I know you.
Yeah.
We've known each other. This feels comfortable. Like when it instantly feels comfortable and you can like finish each other's sentences. I'm feeling this here. So I don't know what we're gonna do together, but I feel like we're in each other's lives, and so that's what's happening. All right, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what other kind of videos you would like me to do, and peace. All right.